Newcastle United's bid for Benjamin Sesko has been rejected. We're going to delve into that story from David Ornstein and the fallout from that. A big update from TalkSport suggesting that Sesko still prefers Manchester United. The new bid from Liverpool for Alexander Isak. We spoke about it this morning. We're talking about it again. Wissa is now available. Brentford, after saying he's not for sale, are willing to sell him. We're talking about these stories, plus taking your calls, looking at your comments as well. But make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribing. Make sure that bell notification is turned on as well. This is the Done Deal Show. Let's do it. RB Leipzig have rejected the bid from Newcastle United for Benjamin Sesko. They believe the bid is inadequate, insufficient. Newcastle proposal of 75 million plus 5 after Leipzig asked for interested clubs for 75 plus add-ons plus a sell-on clause. United's pursuit also continues, but no bid yet. Still being communicated as undecided. I have seen a comment here straight away saying not rejected. Listen, bro, if you walk up to a young lady in a bar and you go, can I buy you a drink? Okay. If she says no, you're inadequate. No, you are. What's the actual words that he uses here? If she says no, sorry, sir, you're insufficient, that is a rejection. She may not say the words, I'm rejecting you. If she says, no, I've got a boyfriend and she's lying, it's all the same thing. It's all a rejection. If it's an insufficient bid, it means it's rejected. Come on now. Let's not play semantics on this one. It's been turned down. We're going to talk about it. We're going to delve into it. We're speaking Isak. We've got to speak Isak as well. We're going to come to that in a moment. For me, this is a really, really big story indeed. Jan Furitov has also updated earlier on today saying understandable that Team Sesko want more time before making a financial decision on where he'll play next season, especially with a new bid already in, more to follow. However, it's also a fact that the player has expressed his desire to join Manchester United before these latest developments. And this also couples in with what Alex Crook has put out today, that Newcastle fear Benjamin Sesko is holding out for a move to Manchester United after seeing their 70 million bid rejected by RB Leipzig. Newcastle Football Club record offer was a signal of their intent to get the deal done. And look, everyone's going to have a different take and a different view. That's why we're live to hear from you. You're going to listen to me, but I'm also here to listen to you as well. And for me, this is starting to smell very similar to the Mbeumo deal. The only difference being Mbeumo, via the media, publicly declared his preference, his priority was Manchester United. Now, what's interesting is Newcastle and Spurs, we have now learned from the likes of the Athletic, were still putting in bids, and their bids were higher than Manchester United's. And of course, Brentford were trying to create a bidding war in that regards. And many believe that is what RB Leipzig are doing here. But what's very interesting, and I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten about, and I don't know if Fabrizio is updated on this yet. You guys can probably tell me quicker than I can go and look. But I'm going to put something up on the screen because this is also very, very interesting indeed for me. And one of the tweets you've already seen. But I need to put these up because I think they're interesting and I think they're potentially significant. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to block out the pictures because I want to get them bigger on my screen. I'm going to make this graphic now because this was only sent to me. About 10 minutes ago, and I sort of forgot about it. And maybe it will be a tweet, maybe it will be a piece of information that is forgotten about in the coming days, in the coming weeks, in the coming months. But I personally think it is quite significant in this conversation for us having an honest story. Now, if we look at this here, it's uploading on my screen as we speak. By the way, if you haven't hit the like button yet, 3,000 of you watching, get that done, please, my people. Take a look here at this. So it was only a few days ago that Fabrizio Romano says there's a gentleman's agreement between Sesko and Leipzig. The price tag for limited clubs could be reduced to a range of 70 to 80 million plus 5 to 10 add-ons. It's only valid for a few clubs considered special by Sesko. We now look at the rejected bid. Now, of course, there is an upper limit to what Fabrizio said here, 80 and 10, okay? But you're only talking about a £10 million differential at that maximum level. But equally, that's pushing it right to its ultimate limits. Is there a special team? Are Newcastle one of them? Is one of them Manchester United? Could this be potentially why Newcastle, RB Leipzig are trying to create a kind of bidding war? That way, they're in a position where they might be able to say to the player, look, you know, we had a bigger bid. You respect the club. Can we get more? I think all of this is very, very significant. You've seen the Jan Fjortov update. There's what Alex Crook, Ben Jacobs is also updated on this situation as well. I'm going to delve into your opinions in a moment. He has tweeted in the last 10 minutes that Leipzig have, his words were, rejected Newcastle's bid. 75 million fixed fee met their quoted valuation, but overall package not deemed acceptable in terms of both total and structure. And remember what we've spoken about before, the structure of a deal for a football club can sometimes be better than the fee. For instance, if Man United, we haven't got this is hypothetical. If we went in there now and said there's 50 million cash up front, you might get the player 5-10 million euros cheaper. That's one of the reasons why I've said all along, I think that Newcastle United should seriously consider doing the Isak deal now, getting that cash in. They'd smash Man United in this deal. They'd smash financially, they'd smash us to pieces, and they could offer a better structure. It goes on to say Man United yet to bid, but remain in the race, having held club to club and player talks. And you know what I like about that? And I said it on this morning's show, so I'm going to keep it 100. I'm not going to change my mind on this. And that is, I like the fact that Man United are not doing the early bidding in this situation. I love the fact that Manchester United are not sort of we're not doing all the groundwork here. I think Newcastle are doing a fair bit of that for us. We're still yet to see who the player commits to. We're still yet to see who he goes for. But there is this feeling that Newcastle will put the bid in because they're trying to force the player's hand. They're trying to show they care more. But I think Man United will just contact him and say, look, we're going to put a bid in once you've decided and you make that public. If you really want it to be us, then we'll bid. If you don't, and a lot of people got up for Fabrizio earlier for saying something that was honest, and that was United will only bid when the player chooses them. And everyone went, well, that's obvious. But it isn't in this circumstance because Newcastle are bidding and he hasn't chosen them. Spurs and Newcastle bid for Mbumo. He hadn't chosen them. Newcastle bid for Hugo Ekitike. They hadn't agreed personal terms, or he hadn't signaled that they were a priority. So it isn't always the case that a club agrees personal terms and then moves on to club negotiations and bids. Man United is simply stating that we are not going to put in official bids. And we, as much as we got rejected by Delap and we got rejected by Ekitike and Gyökeres, what we didn't do in any of those circumstances is put in official bids to those football clubs. We made inquiries into the players' camp. So I'm not surprised that Man United haven't bid at this particular moment. But what was reported even this morning with Newcastle's bid is that United was still relaxed about the situation. So look, let's see how it pans out. I've said all along, I fancy Man United's chances in this. I'm not completely writing Newcastle off. I wouldn't do it. But I think what adds an extra layer to this deal, which I'm very intrigued about, is what Ben Jacobs shared with us earlier on today as well. And that is, and this was an exclusive Ben Jacobs cracker, and that was that Brentford now prepared to let Johan Wissa leave, providing a striker is found, softening their not for sale position from earlier on in the window. There's some striking irony in this, don't you see it? That it's just following the same pattern as Newcastle. Isak's not for sale unless you find a replacement. Yet they're out there bidding for players, and some people think that Isak's not going to happen. There are some Brentford fans, no, Wissa's going to stay, we're going to stand strong. No, they're going, he's kicked up a fuss. That element of player power, I don't think will ever go. I don't think it will ever dissipate, especially when there's short time left on a contract, and he's going to move on. Says Wissa didn't play in Brentford's friendly against QPR, but the club and player are now working towards an August exit. Newcastle are prepared to place a new bid. Vissa's priority is Champions League football. Spurs also inquired this summer. And you see that last bit, which is really significant, that he wants Champions League football. He's got two clubs that are swarming around him. Vissa was a player that I thought United should look at. But again, we're not going to pay any mind to him. The same as Mateta. I like him. I rate him. But it has been documented on a few occasions that he wants to stay at Palace, but he wants to have a season in Europe. And yes, United might offer him a better long-term future. There is definitely, I would still say there's a staggering high possibility that Man United have over the next 5 years have a better time than Crystal Palace. I think that's a fair bet. But he wants to play in European football. So I think Man United are not even entertaining these players because they have other wants and other desires, and that is absolutely fair. So it is a fascinating transfer deal, in my personal opinion. And I look at it and think to myself, a lot of people say, you know, how is this going to pan out, Terry? This is all about who the player agrees personal terms with. It is as simple and it is as straightforward as that. No cap, no nonsense, no BS. Whoever, and I mean this, whoever the player agrees personal terms with is who will win this race. And as obvious as that may sound to some people, well, of course, Terry, but that isn't the way this is playing out publicly right now, because Newcastle are putting bids in before personal terms have been agreed. If he agrees personal terms with United and says, I want to go there, Newcastle will pivot away very quickly. Wissa and Ollie Watkins, potentially a Nico Jackson. So look, from my point of view and from my perspective, I have a certain amount of confidence about this. I like the way Man United are approaching this summer. I would have liked deals to have been done quicker. There's no doubt about that. But I felt all along that playing hardball, only bidding for players that accept us and prioritize us. Yes, it's taken us a longer time to negotiate the deals, but I believe that process over the course of time is going to yield dividends. We're going to get players at better prices under better structures over a longer period. And that's an important element of transfers. In terms of the quality that we're signing, I think that's been very, very good indeed. And Benjamin Sesko would be another fantastic notch on the bedpost. But the race isn't over. The race isn't done. Let's go to some of your comments here on this. We're going to talk Isak a little bit later in the show, so make sure you're staying with us. A bidding war. Well, look, they might be after a bidding war, but I don't think a bidding war is going to happen. I keep seeing everybody say bidding war, bidding war, bidding war, bidding war. There's not going to be a bidding war. And I'll tell you as to why there won't be a bidding war. United won't bid until unless we break. And if we break and if we crack, we may end up getting the player. Some people are going to go, Terry, but think of the football. And I know the football, the end result is so important, and Sesko improves us. That being said, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, if we break and bid before the player agrees, I feel like we're breaking protocol. We're breaking our process. We're breaking what promises we've made internally, the structures, the way we're going to operate. And I don't like that. So I would rather wait. And if the player doesn't want to commit, then we pivot away, because I think we need to start it. And I am thinking of the football here, not the business, because it isn't the business the practice I care about. It's knowing that would be the third player, saying that it's the third player who we've signed, who before we've bid, before we've negotiated fully with the clubs, has said, I only want you. You've convinced me. I think that sends a message to everybody else in the dressing room when they arrive. Not, oh, we were bidding and we was and ahhing and we had to increase this offer and increase that offer. And we were nervous right until the moment at the end because he could change his mind at any time. No, we want it to be like Cunha. We want it to be like Mbumo. Not the length of time negotiating with the clubs, granted, but in terms of the players picking us and we knew and we were relaxed. I think that's a better way for us to operate, because I think it will create a better harmony in the dressing room. And in turn, we get to the football much better. So I don't think we will, but I very much hope that we don't get into a bidding war. A bidding war, in my opinion, is bad for us. Bidding war, Terry, can you not see the bidding war? That's the story. Well, you say that, the Bearded Toon fan, until Man United bid and have it rejected, and then you increase and have it rejected, and then we increase and it's rejected, then it's a bidding war. Man United haven't made any offers today. We didn't blink when you put an offer in. We've waited to see whether or not you get it accepted. Now, if you get it accepted, that's a different story, because then Man United are in a predicament where they have to, again, and even then, I think they'll go to the player and say, we'll match the bid, but you have got to commit to us first. And I hope we do it that way around. If we don't, I'm not going to be disappointed in the signing. I'm going to be disappointed in our procedure, because I think longer term, having those players commit to us is a better look, a better feel, leads to a better culture, and in turn, and more importantly, better results on the field of play. United don't have money for a bidding war. Look, I think we have enough. We have some money. By the way, thank you to everyone who's redirected to the show. I've actually had a couple during the show, which is absolutely amazing. So thank you very much indeed. I want to just message someone real quick. Bear with me a second. Yeah, so like, I hear you, but we have enough money. You have to remember that United don't need to pay 75 million euros this summer, 80 million euros this summer. It will probably cost 15 to 20 first summer round. We've got that cash. That's not going to be a problem whatsoever. Terry messaging Sir Jim again. Yeah, me and Sir Jim, we're buddies, man. We're like this. United have got money, government money. Well, just like Newcastle then, just a different government. Newcastle's owners need to keep Isak and prove they are not pussies. It's not about whether you're pussies or not. Listen, at the end of the day, when a player wants out, you need to move them on. It's not good for your club to keep players that do not want to be there. It's horrendous. Looks to be neck and neck. Little doubt that United have a better managed the better managed bid, but Newcastle have bigger pockets, especially if Newcastle go if Newcastle go for the Isak deal. Well, this is what's interesting. I actually think I actually, I just messaging that person back. Big up Staffy. It's a Staffy, not Sir Jim. I think that they should do the deal beforehand. This is the issue with the way Newcastle were approaching this, is that I think if I suppose it's twofold. If they sell him beforehand, Leipzig might try and raise the price more. But equally, they're not going to sign Sesko if Isak stays. So they've kind of got to do what you're saying. They're not having both. And it isn't because they can't afford it. It's Sesko isn't going to join a club where he's not the main man. He isn't going to join a club where he's not the main man at the start of the season, not in my personal opinion. Leipzig are interested in taking Højlund. And of course, look, Alex Crook and a few other journalists shut that down today and said the player has no intention to leave, doesn't want to go to Leipzig, wants to stay at Man United and fight. And I don't disagree with that news report. All those things are probably true. Right now, he probably doesn't want to go. But I stand by what I said this morning. If Ruben Amorim and Walcott take him aside over there in the States, or when we get back to Manchester, and say, listen, thank you, but we are moving you on, and have a professional conversation, he'll move. His whole mind will change and I think this will happen with Onana and a few other players this summer and next summer, where they'll be moved on. And I think it'll be done quite quickly and quite amicably. And yeah, I think that can also play a part for Manchester United. But I get right now. Also, Højlund's doing the right thing by saying he doesn't want to leave and he wants to stay in case he does want to. Imagine his response was different. Imagine he was being interviewed, Rob, and he goes, yeah, I'd love to leave. How's he going to look if he has to stay? So he absolutely has to say what he's saying right now. I think he's absolutely spot on. Will Newcastle's fouled bids increase the selling price of the player because causing United to overpay? I've seen quite a few Newcastle fans online talk about how they didn't really want Mbeumo and Ekitike. They may not even really want Sesko, and they're going to keep Isak. And they're just doing all these bids to make their rivals pay more money. Now, that is complete far-fetched, Jackanory nonsense. Absolute nonsense. They're trying to sign these players. That's just revisionism to feel better about what is for them a bad situation. And it is a bad situation that Newcastle are in, because they've not been able to land enough of their top targets. It's as simple and it's as straightforward as that. That all being said, that all being detailed, it may put the price up slightly. But I go back to that Fabrizio tweet that we spoke about earlier. Are Man United one of these special clubs? Are Man United one of these special clubs because of the Christopher Vavell situation? And it's intriguing. And I might end up with egg on my face. And if I do, I always hold my hands up because I'm just a normal bloke, and real normal people that are not narcissistic can hold their hands up when they get things wrong. And for me, I think we do have the advantage. I think we may be that special, one of those special clubs. And I don't necessarily think it's because it's Sesko and Leipzig. I think it's a combination. And you would like to think it is. You'd like to think that there is a, listen, can we do a deal? And look, United could throw in some things. There's the Højlund situation, another way of raising Leipzig some money. Let's organize a friendly next summer. Let's make sure we play each other. That's always worth thousands and thousands of pounds to football clubs. There's all these little things that can be done, you know. The sell-on clause thing, I'm not even overly against that. You put the sell-on clause in and you maybe put it at 20%, something like that. But then you do it in a way where it's valid until the player signs. It's valid for 4 years or until the player signs a new deal. That you do something along these lines where it can, or every time the player signs a new deal at the club, you lose 5%, 7.5%, 10% off what that sell-on clause is. I'm not really against a sell-on clause because I think he's going to be successful and we're going to keep him for a long time. And if he does go and he's successful, then we're going to get such a large amount of money for him that losing a percentage of that doesn't necessarily bother me. So I'm not really against it, given the sort of situation that we're in. But maybe that's just me personally. But no, it may put the prices up a little bit, but I'm not really too concerned, if I'm being honest. Thank you, Luke, for encouraging everybody to hit that like button. And we spoke about this on this morning's show. And I'll say it again, what YouTube did, not just to me, it wasn't personal to me, but what YouTube did to content creators this last week was an abomination. And I'm not one of these YouTubers that likes to talk about the money that our shows make, because I find it a little bit bad form. I think that people that do that are a little off key. But of course, this is my job now. I employ people, I pay panelists, I have editors, accountants to pay. I have bills. All the things we use to stream, StreamYard, OBS, the graphics that you see on the screen, a company makes them for me. I have to pay them. What they did to us is they didn't run ads on any of our videos for 2 or 3 days, costing lots of money to the business, which means I now have to pay people out of my own money, as in out of my actual money rather than the business's money. And as much as I don't like getting into the talk around money, because I kind of find it a bit gross, I just want to thank you all for your super chats, your memberships, everyone who just hits that like button. You have absolutely no idea how important that is to us. And honestly, I've always said this: if we could get enough members on the Football Terrace, and I've never done the maths on how many it would take, but if we could ever get to that point, I'd go ad free, just because YouTube absolutely try and screw you over. And we are trying to grow. We're trying to get more people employed. We're trying to, get more hosts on, more people employed, make more content. But it's difficult to do because people have got jobs and you have to pay them, and that's fair. But YouTube always trying to hurt us. So I just want to say, a huge thank you to everybody that, as their super chats, members, gifts out memberships as well. That's like a massive thing for us. And of course, hits that like button. It's so important for us indeed. So it's it's a lot of people think, oh, YouTubers, they make all this money. Listen, none of us in this football world are making money like KSI, right? But even then, KSI is not an island. KSI will probably have a team of 30 or 40 people that he has to pay. If you look at the bigger YouTubers, the United Stand, if you look at AFTV, they've got so many members of staff. 3 or 4 days of YouTube screwing you over could mean someone doesn't get paid. It means bills don't get paid. And that, means services from other companies don't get paid or they're late. So it's a knock-on effect. It's an absolute, and they've actually said as well, they're not going to be reimbursing anyone or compensating people. And I just think this is an absolute abomination. So a big thank you to all of you who have helped us, because it doesn't go unnoticed. And thank you very much to It's Me for gifting out a membership here to one lucky person, and that was won by Jack, who's become a member now. So a big thank you to you for doing that as well, and a big thank you to Risik for also becoming a member as well. And that's amazing that you've done that as a TFC member. Welcome to the members club. And Luke Skywalker encouraging everybody here to hit that like button. And listen, Asad, Listen, man, I love making the content. I love the community. You know, I've loved in the last sort of 5-6 months working back with the United stand, Mark, That's Football, the brilliant community over there, and I feel like our communities are starting to merge together very well. And that's all. Listen, you guys that have watched me long enough know the reason I started Fan Channel Review. That'll be back in the new season. I started Fan Channel Review purely to help promote this industry, to work together, to help each other, to support each other. And you know, yes, in the past I've had beefs with people and fights with people and all this. I will never. I'll never say never, because there could be a circumstance. But by and large, I'm not going down that road ever again. It's not my way. And yeah, thank you very much indeed. I appreciate that massively. I love doing what I do. I'm very, very fortunate indeed. Alexander Isak. We've got to move on to Alexander Isak, because I think it's so connected to this deal. It's unbelievable. It's so connected, and I don't think we should play that down. People keep saying to me, Terry, there isn't a new bid. There isn't a new bid. There won't be a new bid. And they keep going on and on and on and on and on and on. And I think there will be. I think there will be. And I made a joke about this morning, but Newcastle have already shown that encouragement to Liverpool. And I think people have got confused by what encouragement means, right? I'm going to pick my phone up here. Encouragement isn't ring, 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 ring. Hello? Oh, hi, this is Newcastle Football Club. How are you, Liverpool Football Club? Oh, yeah, I'm really good, thank you. What's up? What can we do for you? Well, I just wanted to say, you can do this. We can do what? You know, you can really do this. I just want to say, give it your all, give it 100%. You can do it. You can achieve it. You can get there. Yeah, this is great, but I don't really know what are you doing here? We're giving you some encouragement. Encouragement for what? We're trying to encourage you until you can get Isak, as long as you try your best. What the fuck you on about, mate? That's not that isn't the kind of encouragement the journalist meant. And there are some amoebas online that genuinely think that is the kind of encouragement the journalists were talking about. And it's like, no. What they mean is what we saw this morning. The bid that came in for Benjamin Sesko is quite literally that encouragement. That is the encouragement. And Liverpool will now sit there, and Liverpool will now wait. And maybe though, if I was Richard Hughes, I'd be picking up the phone tonight to Newcastle and saying, listen, your bid got rejected. How about we consider a new bid, slightly increased, 120 million, say 125. We'll pay you 40 million upfront cash. You can then go back to Leipzig, say, don't worry about the add-on. We'll give you the 10 million. Don't worry about the sell-on. We'll give you 10 million in add-ons, but we'll pay you 40 million upfront. So it's a big amount of cash up front. That's what I would do if I was Liverpool tonight. What I've seen from Newcastle today would be the encouragement I need to go at them. That's what I would do. And I think they stand a very, very good chance, if they go with that approach, of getting a deal done. I really, really do. Because Newcastle, I think, are resigned. Yes, he's coming back. Yes, he's going to train, and he's back. But you saw what the fans were doing today. Did you see the fans kicking that car? Well, I've seen it shared by loads of Newcastle aggregators. That was Isak's car, supposedly. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was AI, and I've been duped. But that's the kind of reception he's going to get. They're never going to be happy. So from my point of view, from my perspective, from my sort of way of looking at this, the encouragement is there. But Liverpool now bide their time. Liverpool don't need to rush. Liverpool don't need to do anything crazy. I think now all they have to do is wait. I think all they have to do is wait. They've got just under a month. Isak wants to move. His mind is the only time it gets precarious. The only time it gets precarious, the only time that it becomes problematic, the only time that there is a major issue here is if the player decides to sign this new deal. I don't think he will. Now, of course, if they land Sesko, it increases things. There's been an update actually from Ben in the last few minutes on his post about Sesko, where he says, although Leipzig haven't lowered their price all summer, despite clubs believing this would happen, the fixed fee has been met by Newcastle, and very intentionally. The 75 million part of their offer was made after Leipzig quoted the figure only 72 hours ago. Payment terms, add-ons, and agreed sell-ons did not meet Leipzig's expectations. However, Leipzig sources say it was higher than any other club this summer. Newcastle considering whether to improve. Yeah, a few people in the comments are still saying, Terry, it wasn't rejected. Oh, it's like, oh, Keith Downey is saying that it hasn't been rejected. Look, I'm not. Listen, big up Keith. I saw him and Mark going at it today. I think you can. It depends how you like wording these things, man. I think it depends how you want to word these things. Me personally, I think I'd call it a rejection, even if it was my club. And what has he said here? Is he put out a tweet here? He said, Leipzig and Newcastle remain in talks over the move. Leipzig haven't rejected the offer, but also haven't accepted it. Well, that isn't what Ornstein has said. That isn't what Ben Jacobs has said, but Keith could be right, and maybe that's how Newcastle were fed the information into him. They are still talking. Everything else he said remains true. But what he did say earlier today is that he thinks the bid will be completely accepted. So, he's got some things right, he's got some things wrong, and I think we have to be fair and honest about that. Thank you to Rob, by the way, for gifting out 5 memberships to you guys on the show today, which is amazing of him. So a big thank you to you for doing that. I appreciate that so much, my friend. It means a great deal to the Football Terrace. Look at some more of your comments here. Let's have a little look. Liverpool's Isak bid was purely to reassure Isak they're here and willing to do it. Yeah, there's part of that, and they wanted to test the resolve of it. Listen, have you ever heard this expression? Not expression, that's the wrong word for it. You probably did this at school. When people say, if I offered you £1 million, would you punch that old man in the face? And nearly everybody goes, no, because they want to look good. But if £1 million actually put in front of you and you can see and smell the cash, your reaction could be different. So although Newcastle may say it's going to take more than 120, when 110's actually bid, the situation can change. They go, actually, now we're actually looking at this offer. Now we're looking at this formal bid, this actual offer. Maybe that's the right thing for us to do. Terry, why did you block me on X? No idea. I don't know who you are. What's your X handle? I might remember. I literally normally block people that sometimes people write jokes and I don't read the joke. I see it as like a dig. And what I do, my X timeline is really clean in the sense of anyone who criticizes what I do, slags me off, lies about me, writes nonsense, I just tend to either mute or block. And that's a great way of keeping your timeline really nice, full of good people. Now, I'm not saying you're a good person, not a bad person, but yeah, I want to know what you did. I punched when you guys are saying, wait, what? You guys have never done that at school. If I gave you £500,000, would you do this? Would you do that? Everybody always says no to everything, especially if it's something that's like would make you look bad societal wise or morally. But I'd love to know what would actually happen if the money was put in front of you. I would love to know what would happen. In reality, the world is different when the money's there. And on a more emotive level, I've told this story before, and I'll say it again. A good friend of mine is a fireman, and he said this to me many years ago. Every parent in the world would say, I would run into a burning building to save my kids. Every parent says that, but he's witnessed on too many occasions. He never judges them. Parents screaming for somebody to run into a house, but they actually, because of the heat and because of the fear they're feeling, they actually can't bring themselves to do it. And that was, he always, because we were talking about like, you don't know what you'll do until you get there. And he brought up as an example, and it stuck with me since he told me that about 10 years ago. And that's how I view the world. You say, I'll never do that. I'll never do this. And then a situation arises and you go, actually, I want to. Because I once said that I'd never go and talk sport. My mind has changed on that. And the reason why my mind has changed is I want to go. I'm annoyed with the way loads of people on there give opinions about football. My mind's like, actually, if I went on there, then I'd be able to give my take. They never asked me, by the way. I don't actively pursue it either. But I'm like, if I was able to give my takes, at least then I could counterbalance what they're saying and give a different view. So yeah, we change as we get older. We change and we see things from a different perspective. We see things from different points of view. And I think that's important. Do you think Isak is being a bit disrespectful? I'm a Newcastle fan, and I'm guessing. Sorry, and I get wanting a bigger club, but he's loved by the fans, and he's acting like this. I don't want to hate him, but it's hard. I get your perspective. I get your point of view, and I think you're right to feel that way. I think you're right to feel that way. I think you should feel the way you do. He has upset you. He has, to a degree, disrespected you. So I totally get the way you're feeling and the way you would look at this. What I would also say is we don't know everything yet. And I think that's so fundamentally important to what's going on here. We don't know the ins and outs of this situation just yet. So there is a train of thought due to some articles and opinion pieces that have come out that the player was told that they would allow him to leave this summer. So Harry Kane, and I'm not saying this is all true. I'm just food for thought. That summer where Harry Kane didn't come back to preseason training, he got so much abuse. He got so attacked. He got absolutely ripped into. Then it turned out that he was told by the club he'd be allowed to leave. On his final training session of the season, said goodbye to the cleaners and the people in the canteen and all the staff he'd known since he was a little kid. Said goodbye to them all, hugged them all, said thank you. They wished him well because he was told they'd let him leave. So it wasn't about him not turning up. Maybe Alexander Isak was told by the club, if an offer of this level comes in, we'll let you go. Maybe he's just got annoyed because that's been changed. Maybe he's got annoyed because the club aren't negotiating enough. The club keeps saying he's not for sale when he knows that he is. We've seen it this summer with Victor Gyökeres as an example. We've seen it in the direction you're talking about with Wissa. And I know no Newcastle fans are publicly agreeing with what Wissa is doing, but by proxy you are, because you're not demanding your club doesn't sign him. I've seen Newcastle fans turn on Fabrizio because they don't like how he's talking about this transfer situation. My gut feeling is that when the dust settles, we're going to find out that maybe a few of the things are being said and maybe a few of the things that are coming out are not so much the player being disrespectful, but the club not living up to what they've promised. Just a gut feeling I've got about it. Yo, Terry, I like your objectiveness. Keep it up. Thank you, Phil. I always try my best to be objective and see things from both sides. I try to. It's been my approach for a long time on socials, just my way of doing things. Partly to be a little different because I got to a point where everybody was just the same. And I have my subjective side that sometimes screams to come out. But I'm like, no, I'm gonna try and listen to both sides. And what I've found over the last 5 years, I'm a happier person for doing it. I genuinely feel happier doing it. Terry, what about you making a poll? Should you play Liverpool in career mode on FIFA FC 26? Yes or no? If yes, the democracy tells you to do it. Yeah, that element of me is very autocratic. So fuck you. Honestly, I can't. When I play football games, I just have to be Man United. I can't even digitally support another team. It feels weird. It feels alien to me. I can't do it, my friend. It has to be Man United, unfortunately. Let's have a look at some more of your comments here. These players get paid ridiculous money. He's 100% being disrespectful and shouldn't have signed a contract if he didn't want to honor it. Gyökeres is the same. They should fine him heavily for it. The thing, Ben, is I totally understand that perspective, that point of view, that train of thought. Makes sense to me. There is a but here. A big Kardashian but. Only touch it with permission, though, people. Like, how do I say this in the right way? Why is it not disrespectful when a club sells you and you've got 3 years left on your contract? Why is it not disrespectful when a club lets your contract run down and you no longer have a job? You've given 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and now you're on the scrap heap. Maybe you won't find another club. Why is that not disrespectful, but a player doing it is? That's the one bit I'd just like to hear your opinion on, Ben. Why do you not? I get Trent because the contract ran down and he went for nothing. I totally get that. But what if Isak You know, what about when they sold Longstaff, who's given his whole life to Newcastle, and they moved him on? Why is that not disrespectful in your opinion? I'd love to just understand that personally. This year says if a club wants to get rid, sorry, what's it here? But you can find a different club if you're not wanted. Well, a club can find another player. A club can go and find another striker, maybe not as good, but maybe the players, generally the players that your club finds surplus to requirements. How often, at any level, how often do those players go on to bigger and better clubs? See, this is the thing for me, is we all see it very subjectively from the angle of our clubs. I hate my club being screwed over, but we cheer for players that do it to join our clubs, and we do cheer for them. Maybe not the actions. I think we all pretend and go, I don't like it really. Come on, please do it. But when our club wants to move a player on that isn't good enough, is it disrespectful for Man United to get rid of Rasmus Højlund? He's got 3 years left on his deal. Why are we allowed to get rid of him? I can't buy into it, my friend. Doesn't feel like Man United will get him if RB are going to have the final say on the structure of the deal. Well, that's about again. This all changes if he picks a club. I've said all along, if the player remains undecided and says I'll join the one that does the deal with Leipzig, will lose out. Always said that. Always thought that'd be the case. If a club wants to get rid of a player, no one says the club has signed a contract and has to honor it. You're right. And it's funny, really. And if a club does do that, if a club does honor a contract and lets it run out and they leave for free, the fans go mental at the player and the club for letting him go for free. We pick and choose. There's a few dollars back, mate. To hell with YouTube. Thank you. I really appreciate that, my friend. Thank you very much indeed. It means a great deal to us. All of you that have super chatted and liked the show tonight and done all of that. You've been absolutely amazing. I've done so many streams though in the last 4 or 5 days. My throat is so sore again. It's crazy. I can feel it. This is the voice box. But it'll be fine. This year says it's just emotional reaction for me. Losing your best player hurts. I think the rap talk is ridiculous. The way fans turn on players that aren't good enough, they expect loyalty. This is true. I was talking to some football players not that long ago, and they know what I did for a living. We were talking about what I did for a living, fan content, fan opinions. And I asked them their view on fans. And they said, look, we respect and love them. But they said so many of them are fucking idiots. And I laughed. And I was like, what do you mean we're idiots? And he said, you don't understand that most of us we don't even call training. We call it work. And we don't say, I can't meet you tomorrow. I'm going training. So I'm going to work. It's professional for us. Most of the time, we're not trying to disrespect anyone. We're just trying to, we treat football clubs like you treat jobs. And they said, and football fans just don't want to hear that. And I said, yeah, but they love their football clubs. It's different, right? No one loves Barclays. Nobody loves KFC like they love a football. Some people love KFC like they love football club. I know a few people that love KFC more than their kids, bruv. But you get my point by and large. But it was just funny listening to them sound like all the crazy things they say and do just don't even make sense to them internally. Yeah, we're emotional. We're emotional beings when it comes to our clubs. To be fair, players still have the power that if they don't want to be sold, they won't be. Yes, he might be on the bench, though, but he could have put a clause in it as well. Now, this is true. But that's why less players are signing new deals now and they're getting out quicker. And yeah, but the only time players can really force to stay is when the club's made a mistake and put them on too much money. If Anthony and Sancho and Rashford were on similar money to Garnacho, 50, 60, 70,000 a week, they'd have been so much quicker and easier to sell. People are still disrespecting the likes of Wilcock and Barada right now because we're not able to sell substandard players that are on some of the biggest wages in the world. That little element seems to be negated by a lot of people, and I can't personally do that. Ain't disrespectful if the player wants to play. If the player wants to play football, but they might not want to leave the club. David Beckham got into his car when Fergie sold him and burst into tears because he didn't want to leave Manchester United. Isak should wait out for a better move. He can hold out for Real Madrid as they will be much better because they don't actually have an out-and-out striker. Look, listen, I get why you'd say Real Madrid are better because of their history. I think Liverpool will be fantastic for him. I hate saying it, but I think it'll be fantastic. They called him Alexander the Great. Lol. Least he could have done is be with the team till the major decision was made. But that's why I'm saying I wouldn't judge it just yet. Because you can often... I did say this to Liverpool fans. Said, feel how you want. Newcastle fans as well. Feel how you want. But food for thought. The one question that hasn't come out about Trent yet, and it will at some stage, is did he tell him for years, I'm just not going to sign a new deal, or did he string him along? And I've had this conversation, as you all know, many a time. Did he string them along, or did he say, I'm just not going to sign a new deal? Because I think if it turns out and it's proven that he just said for 2 years, guys, I'm not stringing you along, I'm just not signing a new deal, and the club did nothing, you blame the club. If the club, though, have turned around and said to Isak, we're going to let you go, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then they go back on his word, maybe then you would feel different about him. So again, often my view, too, I know that Staffy and others call me out for it being a gimmick, but when I say, like, I'm going to try and be patient, this is the reason why I try to be. And sometimes we all get it wrong, because that knee-jerk reaction can often make you look silly later. And I'm just in a position where I don't want to do that. And look, we all get predictions wrong. This manager should be sacked. Turns out he's been brilliant and he shouldn't have been. You know, this player, we shouldn't buy this player. Oh, wow, he actually turned out to be great. But I think when it comes to something as emotive as this, I think it's important to keep your powder dry to a certain degree. Hello, Terry. Any updates on Isak being out? On Isak been out all day? Yeah, I mean, we're talking about it right now. I mean, they're saying there won't be another bid. That there won't be another bid, but everyone knows there's going to be. Everyone knows this deal is going to have another bid. Everyone's saying that they're not going to bid again, but the deal isn't over. You don't have to be Einstein to read between those lines. You just don't. You just don't. Simple and straightforward as that. You just don't have to be Einstein. I was thinking, who is that guy? What was his name? They made a movie about his life. He basically helped beat Nazi Germany. Alan something. Alan Turing? Turing? You don't need to be him. Did someone say Patrick Stewart? Fuck off. Alan Turing. Yeah, you're right. That's it. Alan Turing. That's him. Yeah, Imitation Game was a film. Alex Fleming. You don't need to be him to read between these lines. You don't need to be him to crack this code. Do you know what I'm saying? You don't need to be him. You can see full well what's going on here. Full well what's going on. So yeah, that's my update. Terry, have you seen the Bruno Fernandes news? Yeah, look, oh, by the way, thank you, Marissa, for becoming an official member of the Football Terrace. 8 new members tonight, which is just lovely. So thank you very, very much indeed. Have I seen... What was the question? I forgot now. What was the question? The Bruno situation. It says that he wants at least 1 more year and then maybe he'll leave. My mind ain't... I know we've done a pre-season now. My mind hasn't changed, though. Genuinely, if another £100 million bid comes in the next 3 to 4 weeks, we have to get our ducks in a row. If we can go and get Belieber, if we could go and get a world-class goalkeeper, and if we could go and maybe get a bit more creativity, I'd do it still. Not that I don't love and respect Bruno Fernandes, but I'm thinking about the longer-term future. And if today's story is true, that he might decide to go in a year, a part of me sort of thinks, well, maybe we won't get as much. If the bid is 100 million, this is, well, maybe we won't get a £100 million bid next year. Maybe it'll only be 80 million. Maybe it'll only be 60 million. What if he's phased out the team this year? You know, I'd cash in. If the bid's 100 million again, I stand on that 110%. Terry, what did you make of Ruben Amorim's interview? Yeah, I watched it. I liked it. And again, I have to be very careful, though, right? I have to be very, very careful when it comes to the Ruben Amorim interview because of the wonderful things he does. We're off to see. I haven't seen Wizard of Oz in years, but that song's still in my head. Why do I have to be careful? I have to be careful of confirmation bias. In life, sometimes you read something and it's like, oh, that's what I think, so that must be true. I think that, so it has to be the truth. You have to be careful. Be very, very mindful of that. The reason why I say that is because he said something that was so important. He said something that, you know, and almost profound, really. And I think that it was something that I think is vital, significant, consequential for Man United's growth. I really, really do. Because he spoke about, if you guys have been watching me for a long time, you've seen me talk about this. And I spoke about this on a number of occasions. And that is that the dressing room at Liverpool, the dressing room at Man City, the dressing room at Real Madrid, the dressing room at Brighton, because we're going to do pound for pound comparisons, because pound for pound, Brighton have been punching above their weight for a decade. Their dressing rooms self-police. Their dressing rooms, if somebody steps out of line, if somebody comes in with an attitude, if somebody starts not working hard enough, the manager doesn't have to be the bad guy. The players will sort him out. And Ruben spoke about how last year, every little thing that went wrong, because I had to fight with this, basically saying, I'm expanding on what I heard, but it was basically, I had to fight all the fights, which meant he was falling out with players. He was punishing everybody. He was the bad guy. It definitely created some disharmony. And that will be with certain people that were in our dressing room. He said this season, he didn't say this bit, but we know certain people have gone, right? Now he said that there's a leadership group that are policing that room and he isn't having to fight every fight. And straight away, I was like, oh my God, we could be on the road to recovery here. We could be on the road to recovery. Now, I need to be very careful, like I've said, that I don't allow confirmation bias to warp my mind, and I have to remain objective and open-minded here. But it's something for 10 years I've screamed at. And I know we've heard a lot of these things before about fitness, about culture. Other managers have said, oh, the team ain't fit enough and the team isn't this, and it's been a problem. But the reason why that's happened is we didn't have the right people running the club. We spoke about this yesterday. It was either on the United stand or on the terrace. I don't remember which because there's so many streams where it's like if I have a restaurant and I hire a brilliant chef to cook the meat, but then he decides, actually, I'm going to make the dessert and I'm going to let the pastry chef who's never cooked meat in his life cook the meat. You're probably going to fuck up dinner. You're probably going to get a lot of people complain. You're going to lose customers and lose money. And that's how our club was being run under Ten Hag, under Oli, under Jose. And I don't ever blame the managers for this. Is they were making mistakes, but they were rudderless. There was no direction. The fact that we hired Erik Ten Hag, a manager, with a Ajax / Barcelona-esque style of playing football, because Barcelona play that way because of the Ajax way, because of Johan Cruyff. That is what he played. That's how he plays. He came to Man United, bought players for that system, because a lot of them had played for him or wanted by him in the past, but then he wasn't implementing that style regimentedly, religiously. The fact that we allowed that as a football club to happen is ridiculous. And that's why players don't work hard enough. That's why player power ensues, because the players look and go, this is a load of old crap. What's going on here? But I am on 300 grand a week, so I'm not going to leave. And I think for me, hearing what he said today was great. Now, we need to see it play out. Great mood, the attitude's good, leadership group, keeping the room disciplined. There's a better feel-good factor. We heard Beth on the United stand say that she's in those mixed zones. She's at the training grounds. I've heard a number of content creators say this too. They're like, feels really different to what they used to. So my hope is that maintains and we add more players to it and we start seeing improved results and we play better and we can progress. So yeah, I watched the interview, I listened to it, but like I've said, I'm not going to allow myself to go, that's it, we'll be perfect, brilliant, no problem, amazing, let's crack on. I wouldn't say that at all. This year says, Terry, what are you on about? Believer will be a minimum of 70 million and you want to be attacking. You want an attacking mid. and a world-class keeper. I'm sorry, but Bruno going for 100 million won't cover that. You're living in cuckoo land. Well, I'm not. You should know this. You're a Chelsea fan. You're the best financiers in the league. 100 million pound can get you 250 million pounds worth of players, because it comes into your books instantly, and you could. So it comes in as 100 million in your turnover, into your bottom line. Because Bruno's pure profit at this point as well, because we've had him more than we've paid him off. That's 100 million pounds straight in. But you could then go and buy 200 million pounds worth of players, but you might only pay 30, 40 million pound a year. So it's 100 million in year one, 40 million out year one. Firstly. Secondly, we have money for a new goalkeeper, and there is going to be some money for a midfield player. But now what you're doing is taking 100 million extra and adding it into that pot. Now what you can do is get a better midfielder and a better goalkeeper than you were looking for, and go and get someone like a Belieber. So financially, it's very, very doable indeed. And like I said before, when it comes to the finances, I'm gonna come out with an old school 90 saying here: don't mess with the best until you pass your test. Yes, Bruno's pure profit. You've got to remember this about football players. So it isn't just academy players that are pure profit. You know, and what does pure profit mean, and why are homegrown players called pure profit? So this is the thing. It's 100 million cash isn't the same as 70 million amortization. Exactly right. So the way this is done, like one of my businesses, we bought one of my members of staff a car through it. And it's so on the, when you look at like the payments, so we amortize the asset, right? So when it comes in, it isn't seen as a debt as such. The business will put it in as an asset into your balance sheet. So what you won't see is the debt coming out, as even though there's a payment every month for the car, it doesn't come out every month in that way. What we do is we depreciate it or amortize it every single month. We actually amortize it. My accountants do this. I don't know I don't understand it, for more than the payments are, as an example. So so when it first starts, it doesn't show as a debt that you owe. We put it in as an asset. It kind of counterbalances itself. Does that make sense? So there's a debt and there's an asset, and it counterbalances itself. That's kind of how it's done with players. And when you've got an academy player, you're not buying them. Therefore, there's never any debt. You've got the asset that's there, that's worth something, but there's no debt against it. So whenever you sell that academy player, it's always pure profit on your trading accounts, because there's no debt. Now, the car that I've bought, essentially, in however many years' time, the business will own the car. It won't be worth what it's worth now. So it's a little different to a player, where players can go up in value. But let's say there's an asset there of £30,000 that we don't owe anything on. If we then sold it in 3 or 4 years' time, because we don't owe any money, it would help you in that year make profit. Does that make sense? So Bruno Fernandes, my understanding is that everything we've owed on him has been paid. So we now have an asset that's worth something, and we owe no more money on him. Therefore, if we sell him, it's pure profit on that year's trading accounts. Maguire is exactly the same. If you play for a player in cash, it doesn't always work that way either, because you may pay for the player in cash, but you might still be amortizing and doing that, depreciating down each year, so you're not suffering that cash loss on your P&L straight away. So it is a little bit more complicated than net spend. And I'm only explaining it to you like a layman's. Again, it's complicated because there's multiple ways it can work, but that's how the pure profit works in this way. It's why net spend, in the basic way newspapers use it, isn't real. You bought him for £50 million 5 years ago. You sold him for 20 million. You've lost 30. It doesn't work that way, because you're buying an asset to use. So the way you factor it into your profit and loss, and your profit and loss is the most important thing, because that dictates how much you can and can't actually spend each season. You factor in a certain amount of what that player costs as like a member of staff. It's like it's an operating expense of the business, of the football club that you need, and you factor the money into it that way. So yeah, look, Bruno Fernandes would be pure profit if we sold him. Pure profit. Do you want to sell Bruno, Terry, or did you want him to stay? I love the player. I'd love to see us be successful and him to be here. But if it meant we could make the squad stronger and better and be better as an overall team, I would do it, because Man United becoming better is always my key goal. I want Bruno to stay for one more season. I hear that, John. I hear that, my friend. This here from Matty says, love the content, Terry. I think Isak will get done but will take time since small striker market and Newcastle doesn't have much pull. It depends if they get Sesko done now, but yeah, I think they have a much. The one thing I would say after once Man United are done, if Man United win the Sesko deal, there aren't many teams looking at the other players. I think it'll be easier for them. I think it'll be easier for them at that point. By the way, what I said about the amortization and pure profit, does that make sense the way I explained it? Or did it sound like waffle? I'd love to know. Should teach this in schools. They should. I mean, it should be, again, if I run the country, I would ban net spend being allowed to be broadcast because it's terrible education for kids. Terrible education for football fans. It's basically a lie. The only time you can use it, and because this is how it would work, it is, oh, well, we spent 300 million this summer, but we sold 400 million. So we made 100 million profit. It almost works in that regard. But even then, you don't often, that's only if you actually spent all that cash. And that isn't what they normally do. So it doesn't even work in that regard most of the time as well. Waffles. Explain like the rocket science. Explained like a rocket scientist you are, Terry. Well done. Thanks, mate. I appreciate it. It made sense, but for example, Arsenal bought Madueke and he is homegrown. So would he be pure profit even if... No, he would not as far as I'm aware. Not as far as I'm aware. I'd have to go and check that. I don't know if there's some sort of... Where it could be pure profit under PSR. So that's another factor. So under PSR, you might see Man United lose 200 million. Why haven't they been had points deducted? For instance, £50 million we've spent rejuvenating Carrington. Money you spend on infrastructure, money you spend on youth, money you spend on the women's team, money you spend on charities, other things like that. That is all deductible. So if you lose 200 million, but 180 million of that loss was on the areas I mentioned, you only lost 20 million on PSR. So there may be something. There may be something whereby if you buy a homegrown player, the annual losses on that player can be minused on PSR. But I don't think on your actual trading accounts, it would show as pure profit if you sold him in a year. You would still owe that money to Chelsea. So you could be right in that regard. But I'm not too sure. That Sesko to Man United. Yeah, I heard Goldbridge say this earlier, and I think he's absolutely right. Absolutely right. If this deal goes through, Man United fans will absolutely lose it with excitement. I think it will be a massive one for us. This is absolutely football finance 101 for sure. Look, we've had a lot of football finance guys on the terrace many, many years ago, and this is where my mind got changed on everything. And it's so important for people to listen to them. It really, really is. So important indeed. Let's have a look at some comments here. Terry, can you explain the difference between tapping up and agreeing personal terms first? Well, officially tapping up is where an official member of a football club meets and talks directly to a player. Or in the Spurs Nottingham Forest Gibbs White case, confidential information that's under an NDA is revealed to the club. And that can only come from the player or his agent, that can only come from the player and his agent. There'd be only two that know, and his lawyer. So either way, when that happens, the club will do something about it. But typically, if Omar Barada or Vivell sat down directly with Sesko without the permission of Leipzig and spoke to him, trouble. Now, what you typically see, but that's why clubs use agents and intermediaries to act as go-betweens. Now, in the working class world that we're from, we call those people fences. You must have heard this when you watch a gangster movie where it says, "Oh, I'm going to put that camera through a fence. I'm going to put that gold through a fence." Came through a fence, and a fence is essentially it's a go-between. You know, person steals an item, goes through a fence, ends up with the person that sells the item. It's kind of what the intermediaries and agents do in transfer talk. They're like a fence. They're a go-between. They're a buffer. They're a link that also stops that connection if possible. Sometimes it goes through 2, 3, 4, 5 people before it gets to the person selling it. That way it's harder to be traced. So that is a difference. Essentially, they're both the same thing, but in a court of law, they are different. In a court of law, they are different. So, yeah. That's it. Listen, I want to say a big thank you to everybody that's tuned into the show tonight. Please hit the like button before you go. Thank you to all my super chat. Thank you to everyone that's been here. We are going to be live tomorrow morning again, tomorrow afternoon, and then of course we'll be back for the football in the evening. Man United play again tomorrow, which I'm very excited about indeed. Very much looking forward to that. Hang on a second. Let me just check one thing. Sorry, peeps. Stay with me a second. Stay with me and you'll see in a world of pure imagination. Da, 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 da. Go check out Dom Hassam's channel. He's going to be live pretty soon. I'm going to send you guys over there. Go let him know you've raided. Until next time, my people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we are going to, let me just do one thing real quick. We're going to see you all again very soon. I pressed the wrong button. Peace.